Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
All right, so we're looking at the Amnesty International report. What did the Amnesty International report say regarding Israel's treatment of the Palestinians?
Well, as the British journalist David Hurst says in his recent article, this report by Amnesty International represents a historic turning point because for so many years, for decades, Amnesty has been so cautious in speaking about the conflict in Palestine. And for that, many Palestinians used to criticize it. Now, Amnesty comes out in plain language, very explicit, with no ambiguity whatsoever, and accuses Israel of being an apartheid state. Of course, accusing Israel of being an apartheid state is not something new. Palestinians have been saying it for decades. The supporters of Palestine around the world, including in South Africa, have been saying it. Last year, B'Tselem, a major Israeli human rights organization, said it, followed by Human Rights Watch, as well as by other smaller organizations. Now, this represents a realization on the part of a significant proportion of the world that the real or the truth about the nature of the state of Israel.
Mm-hmm. So what has Israel said in response to that report?
Well, as usual, the Israelis reacted widely. They've accused, as their foreign minister, Yair Lapid, said, Amnesty International of being another radical organization that is simply echoing propaganda against Israel, accusing whoever criticizes this apartheid regime of being anti-Semitic, of posing a threat to the Jews, as if Israel is the sole legitimate representative of the Jewish people around the world, which I'm sure many Jews disagree with. So this has been the reaction by Israel, which really is a ridiculous reaction.
Mm-hmm. So last year, this time rather, Israeli rights group B'Tselem, as you said, published a study in January 2021 that found that Palestinians divided into 4 tiers of inferior treatment are denied the right to self-determination. What has the UN done about that thus far?
Well, unfortunately, the UN is helpless in this regard, although sometimes its officials do recognize the facts that happen on the ground in Palestine. But as you know, the United Nations represents governments, state actors. Its most influential arm, the Security Council, is controlled by permanent members who have a veto right. And therefore, the UN really hasn't helped the Palestinians much, let alone the fact that the United Nations bestowed legitimacy on the creation of this apartheid state from day number one, when it recognized the creation of a colonial occupation authority on the land of another people, the Palestinians.
Mm-hmm. So these types of reports come out from time to time. Why doesn't any actual action get taken against apartheid Israel from the international community? You know, this has been happening for so long now. Every time, as you've said, 4 reports from the major groups or major organizations, and yet we see very little being done about what has been carried out in Israel.
Well, this is not unique. We've seen this in previous colonial projects, including the one that was in South Africa. It took the world a while to decide to take action against such racial segregation, against such racism. I remember as a young man that the regime of the apartheid regime in South Africa used to be supported by major powers in the world, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and so many others. And they were the ones that provided it with the nourishment and the ability to continue to suppress the people of South Africa. The same thing is happening today in Palestine, where without such support and without such shielding by these major powers, Israel could never have continued to suppress the Palestinians and persecute them for so long.
Now, we also see the silence from the Muslim countries being very loud, and that is a really sad reality.
Well, the Muslim world is not in a good shape. It's really going through transformation itself. You have the governments on one side and you have the peoples on the other. I have no doubt in my mind that the Muslim peoples everywhere are fully supportive of the Palestinians and do recognize the threat Zionism as an apartheid ideology poses to the world. However, governments which are mostly unrepresentative of the Muslim people serve the interests of minorities that collude with the world powers that support Israel and accordingly collude with Israel itself. And we've seen in recent years, unfortunately, as part of the endeavor to suppress the Arab revolutions that erupted in 2011, some Arab countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Morocco, Sudan, and others have actually been normalizing relations with Israel at the expense of the Palestinians.
Mm-hmm. So will this report just be forgotten then and everyone will move on as usual with Israel getting away once again with murder? Or do you think this time there would be some action taking place?
I think this is another increment in the accumulative efforts by the world to see Israel for what it is and to do something about it. And this is a repeat of what we saw in South Africa, although probably in Palestine it's likely to take a little bit longer. It's the opening of the eyes of the world to the truth. And the moment more people see Israel as an apartheid regime that is committing war crimes and crimes against humanity in Palestine, we will start seeing things change on the ground.
All right, inshallah, I suppose that is the prayer that we all make for Palestine every day here in South Africa, and I'm sure the rest of the world, for those who support the Palestinian cause as well. Dr. Azzam Tamimi, Jazakallah khair for being with us this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.